I haven't been drinking soda. I find it not in accordance with my diet, which has been going very well. I think I've lost at least 10 pounds, maybe more. My pants fit different. My body moves different. My jowls have receded. Doing pretty good. But I'm making an exception right now, because in a legal filing, I cited somebody who was a former member of the judiciary in the state of Texas, Richard Koch. Well, Richard Koch had quite a history in Texas. He was not only in the judicial branch, but he was in other branches as well, and even was a U.S. Senator. This is a man that had quite a repertoire. And I just opened here, what does it say? Koch's position generally, as well as in his message, was basically pro railroad. Yet by February, newspapers reported that he was favoring repudiation, a position which helped influence legislators not to assist the International and Great Northern in retaining its bond subsidy. A state journal also observed that Koch had centered a Waco strength around him that bids fair to estrange the powerful influence of the democracy of Austin. I think that's enough right now. In 2018, I made a formal request that the state of Texas officially withdraw from the 2018 federal election and instead begin a process to prepare for a discussion of whether or not to secede from the federal government. This was a challenge to the Texas leadership for it to get itself together and understanding that the problems that were being faced by the people of Texas were of such a magnitude and the corruption that was occurring was of such a magnitude that it behooved the alleged leadership of Texas to step up and assure that we were safe from any further exploitation or expropriation by the federal government. There are certain things about the nuances of the specific facts of the public record regarding the past history of Texas, but I knew enough to understand I was within the constitutional bounds when I did what I did. I also understood enough to know that what was going on at that time, which is reflected in my formal filings with the Supreme Court of Texas, was that the alleged leadership was not, and to this day has refused to comply with the Constitution. Now, this conspiracy to intentionally defame its own legacy goes back for more than 20 years. As a matter of fact, in many ways, a great deal of the conspiracy they're attempting to get away with has its 20th anniversary this year. Same people, pretty much. Couple of people that were younger at the time, been able to work their way into particular positions. Nobody wants to talk about what they're not talking about, and this is very, very bad for a lot of people involved. And it's not just specific to the state of Texas. I still contend that the State Bar of Texas qualifies as a violent junta, as was declared and explicated by the Supreme Court of the United States in describing communist organizations. I also understand that since then, rather than taking that seriously, they attempted to promulgate their conspiracy of indoctrination by subsuming new memberships regarding the Bar Association within a multi state compact where new attorneys were to be barred in consideration of more than one state's requirements being allowed to be tested at the same time. What I understand is they had no intention of cleaning up corruption, and they had no intention of honestly addressing the system of patronage and fealty demanded by a particular entrenched elite that decided it was within their prerogative to centralize the entire state, illegally expropriate our property, and try to maintain terms of peonage as a way of trying to cover up for their crimes, and then put that within a multi-state compact, hoping that what? The circulation within all the states would diffuse accountability. You see, this also calls into question a constitutional standards of all of the states involved in that compact, and a question of whether or not the bar associations of those states are likewise engaged in a conspiracy that qualifies legally as a communist organization and are attempting to network with each other in order to solidify the hold they have over their own people. It's very difficult to discuss a legal, shall we say, removal to another venue or a request for a different jurisdiction to avoid a conflict of interest if there's a secret compact between different communist operators to solidify their stranglehold. In some ways, it could also be considered interstate racketeering. Now we're at a situation where, because of the failure of the so called leadership in Texas to act, and the multiple egregious offenses to the people of Texas that occurred under the auspices of alleged constitutional changes, including ones involving animals and spouses of first responders, that the viability of a secession is not very appropriate at this time. I would have to actually acknowledge Koch's influence here and say I favor a repudiation at this time of my request that Texas engage a period of determination on secession. We have to remove this communist organization from its pedestal before we have a chance. If that entails some form of a reconfiguration of the republic overall, that is well within our constitutional rights, and I contend we have a duty. I am on the record from before the election of 2017 repudiating the unconstitutional acts of the state of Texas. I contend that also qualifies as a formal repudiation of the alleged changes to the Constitution of Texas that they tried to pass off in 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020. At this time, since the beginning of this year, there is another stage of unconstitutional laws that Texas thought it was going to get away with in the form of a multi-stage process of attempting to apply a form of gag order, or rather confidentiality, on what they are legally and constitutionally required to provide the people. They are not allowed to pass secret laws saying information they are required to give us as the people and the authority under the Constitution can be made confidential, so they can engage in secret bidding and then say, well, the terms of that bidding process are confidential. No, you're not allowed to do that. It's not appropriate. If you wanted to do something like that, go somewhere else where it's not only unconstitutional, but evidence of being involved in an organization you're still on the record as saying is illegal. I'm just letting you know. I still maintain the State Bar of Texas is a communist organization by the letter of the law. However, at this time, until such time as we repudiate, repel, and put down that communist organization and all its operators, including those moonlighting in the legislature and executive, We are not in a position where we can withdraw from the federal union. This is a struggle that most of the states of this country are dealing with at this time. There are infiltrators masquerading as if they're part of either party. Party affiliation's not material here. What is material is the commitment to the conspiracy.